Strategy Mob podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy Mob. Today, I have two very special guests. I have Mr. John Kostakos, literally like right down the street from me. I think, John, you're like, 25 minutes away from me, and you're outside enjoying the beautiful weather. So thanks for joining us. And from the other side of the country, where it's very interesting right now. Chris, you're going to have to tell us a little bit about that. But I have Mr. Chris Power Gomez. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This is going to be a lot of fun. I figure the best way to kind of kick off our conversation today will be a couple origin stories, kind of how both of you gentlemen got started. So, John, if you don't mind, I'm going to start off with you. What is the origin story that is John Kostakos?
Prior to 1995, I was in the food business for about 10 years. And then in 1995, I answered an ad in the Toronto Stars on the QEW for a company that was looking that it said seminar company, great opportunity, call this number. So I called the number, and it was a company out of Detroit, Master Marketing, still around today. And they were launching a brand new sales trainer doing seminars was one happening in Hamilton, and that guy's name was Grant Cardone. So they had we brought him to Canada, and I've marketed him for maybe the first 16 years of my career. And then I got involved with another company, Proactive Dealer Solutions, Mike Overy. I don't know if you've heard of those guys. So kind of involved in the origin of that company. And then through that whole time, I'm originally from London, Ontario. I knew a guy, introduced a fellow named Dwayne Marino. Right. Okay. So Dwayne, I know you do. So Mr. Dwayne, we've been friends for a long time. And maybe 10 years ago, I started representing him in Canada. And then also in the winters, I'll go down to the U.S. and I represent an American speaker named Damien Boudreau. I don't know if that name, right? He launched the career of Ali Reda, the number one salesman in the world. So, and that's what I do. So I travel North America. I go to cities, promote my seminars, and the salespeople come, managers come sometimes. And that's it. That's what I've been doing for the last 25 years.
That's cool. I bet you got some stories that you might have to share off camera, or maybe I can get you to share them on camera. We'll see how it goes. Hey, Chris, for yourself, how did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
I think I was born into it. I've been a car guy all my life, a driver primarily. I've raced everything from quarter midgets to sprint cars to SCCA and motorcycle side also. And then kind of halted that for a little bit when I went to college. And then, actually, first day out of high school, I started my first company, and it was auto related. I started an interesting sub-industry called van conversions back in 1976. At any rate, so we supplied custom vans to a lot of the Ford, Chevy, and Dodge dealers throughout Southern California, and kind of created that industry. Went to college, and from there I'm a brand developer, and have 4 decades of experience in brand development for global ad agencies and that kind of thing. In regard to cars, I own a publishing industry. I mean, a publishing company in the auto industry, auto related. I have a magazine called Auto Life, and I am now also have a motorsports company, Power Brothers Motorsports, that's customizing, and I'm just now launching an offering to auto dealerships called. That company is called Dealer Position, and the offering is a 2020 dealer of choice, and we'll get into that.
That's cool. I mean, very, I find for a lot of people who get into our industry is that they almost just kind of fall into it. Very seldom do you get to meet someone who blew up with gasoline in their, grew up with gasoline in their blood. So, Chris, it's cool. It's cool to jam with you guys. Hey, man, talk about some interesting times, guys. Seriously, like, wow, talking about just really taking the entire industry and flipping it up on its head. I mean, I even know from my business, I mean, within 2 weeks, just everything just now it's kind of we're getting into June now, thank God, and it seems like there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I know this is so much different than what the recession was. I mean, the recession for me, guys, was this kind of long drawn out 6 to 9 months of just kind of things progressively getting worse. This was just an implosion of things. So I would love to kind of hear it from you guys of kind of what your current norm looks like. John, I mean, I know there's a lot of events that are just not happening. I know I personally had like almost half a dozen events get canceled, and who knows if they're going to be rescheduled. So I'll start with you, John. What's your current norm look like?
Oh, it's a lot of family time right now. I mean, I had a seminar. Yeah, you know what? It's been fantastic because I've been able, I would travel 30 weeks a year all over, promoting. And so it's nice to be home. It's nice to connect with the family. It's been pretty fantastic that way. My last seminar was in Saskatoon. It was March 24th, 25th with Dwayne, and which didn't happen. So that kind of sucks. So that's been rescheduled for September. I had it rescheduled for later on in the summer, but I said, you know what, screw that. We'll just do it September, the first week of September. So I'm an optimist. I think that we will be back. I'll be back on the street probably in September. I mean, it's pretty nice, and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I hope. I mean, I think we're a culture of people that like to connect, that like to be together, that like to socialize, that like to go to ball games, that like to go. And I think even the seminar, Mr. Jason, the seminar will be something that will be really, really phenomenal because a live event down the road, it'll be like this because nothing beats a live event. It's going to be pretty awesome to get there with an industry expert and live to listen to them and to take notes and to connect with people again. That's going to be very special. That's just that's my opinion.
No, John, I'm with you, man. I'm looking forward to, flying down and meeting with people and connecting with people and networking with people. And tell you, there's nothing like the energy of getting on the stage in front of a bunch of people. But it's going to be interesting, though. I feel like everyone kind of is split down the middle as far as social, kind of expectations of how we're going to interact moving forward. I mean, I know a lot of big event companies have fundamentally pivoted their business to prepare for, a lot more virtual type events. So I don't know. I agree with you. I'm excited to get back to it, but I'm not 100% sure how it's going to happen. So we're going to see how that goes. Hey, Chris, for yourself, what's your current norm look like?
Well, basic structure hasn't changed a lot. I'm in my pool house in my backyard. Um, that's my office. And one thing that I've been working to launch this auto dealership initiative well pre-COVID. And interestingly enough, it's an initiative that realigns the auto dealership with the local community residents. Sort of goes back to the old days of the auto dealership, and then to have the COVID virus, the COVID program, whatever we call this, it's terrible. I mean, it's terrible. It's funny how we can talk about it and in such a light, shallow manner, and we're speaking of a pandemic that's killing people, and that's how it comes in. But so I launched another new business that's taken most of my time about 6 months ago, called the LinkedIn Executive. All of my businesses start with the core of my branding offerings, and I usually don't tell people this, but it's a way for me to stay relevant at 62 years old. I take my core branding offerings and I sort of build them into industry specific services. So, but my point was that prior to the coronavirus, I was working on this realignment with the local community residents and the dealership, and it's a comprehensive full spectrum program that starts with at the dealership. So customer touch points within the dealership, and then goes to some brand nuanced changes, and then channels directly, marketing channels directly to the audience, and then community work. So that's been taking all my time, and it has slowed down my completion of the program because going and speaking to dealerships is great. So, and also it has changed some of the structure of the offering. Luckily, I'm working with some McKinsey business strategy types that can switch on a dime. To them, it's all methodology. So I guess that sums it up. I'm here with my
I think that's for a lot of us, that kind of seems to be the norm is, how do we pivot? How do we continue to stay relevant? I definitely anticipate that we're going to come back to some style of norm, just as an industry, as what does that look like? I mean, John, there is so much kind of thoughts and ideas about what it's going to look from like a salesperson's perspective, what it's going to look like from a sales manager's perspective, and even all the way down to how a dealer even operates. A lot of dealerships right now are doing a lot with a little, and they're beginning to realize, do they really need an F&I manager, a sales manager, a salesperson, a BDC person, just to complete a singular transaction. People are questioning that, and I kind of want to hear what your thoughts are. Is, do you see this pandemic adjusting the way a dealership is kind of structured from an operations perspective?
I believe there's two ways of selling. You have the transactional way, which is you got the BDC, you got people waiting for dealer-driven opportunities, you have the manager's coaching and all that stuff. And then you have the relationship way. So what I've been a proponent of with Damian Boudreau and Dwayne Marino is the relationship way of selling. They're just two different things. All the salespeople that I've encountered, I think if you're not in the relationship game today, then you're pretty much done because you don't have any traffic. You got to be able to build relationships, connect with people. You have to be their Google and here's the thing, that's an interesting point on F&I, because believe it or not, and when I'm doing a sales meeting at a store, I'll talk about Aldi Retta because he's selling 100 plus cars a month, all relationship. People coming to him, they love him, but Jason, he's his own F&I manager. So then on the transactional side, I go to a store here just a few weeks ago, and the guy's like, you know what, we're doing fantastic. We did 54 cars last month. We got 5 people, and we don't, I think and they're talking. I'm like, dude, what do you myself? I'm saying, dude, what are you talking? 54 cars you have to be able to do more. That guy, I know that guy well. That guy's a transactional sales manager. So it's all about it's dealer-driven opportunity. So they get stuck. So all I know is the relationship way. If you're in the relationship business, it's just a different game. That's a totally different game. That's just my thoughts.
No. I'm with you on that. I think what we're going to see, from a sales perspective and also from a leadership perspective, is the cream really is going to rise to the top. In times like this, I saw the exact same thing happen right after the recession. There are dealerships that folded up. There were sales managers that went off to look for different jobs, or salespeople that went off to look for jobs. And the ones that kind of stuck around were the ones, to your point, John, that did an amazing job of creating relationships, nurturing those relationships, and finding ways to continue to bring value to the customer, right? I think that's always the key. Hey, Chris, for yourself, what are your thoughts on kind of how, the operations or the structure of a dealership may actually change, moving forward?
Well, operationally, I made a comment on a post recently. I went through, in 1999, sort of a large event called the New Economy, and the creation of the New Economy. And it modified the way business was done to the core. And the New Economy was a result of something we called the Internet Revolution. So those two things changed business as we know it. We had in America the military structure previously, to where you as an employee advanced based on years. time on the job. And all of a sudden, with the new economy, it was based on your ability to create revenue. So, at the time, I was launching what was the first internet professional services firm, ad agency that built websites. And I had web builders, flash builders, on 3 continents, and there were 19-year-old kids making $1 million a year. So at any rate, my point is that it seems that one of the very last holdouts on adopting the infrastructure of a new economy business was the auto dealership. The components to a new economy business are no inventory, no employees, no overhead. So for me, I've just been watching dealerships go on and build this incredible infrastructure with every local resident being employed there, and then having an assistant. It just didn't make sense. So you see the used car folks coming in with the new economy business model, and all of a sudden everybody's going, "Wow, what's up with that?" Not necessarily speaking of the coin operated.
You can say it, you can say the Carvana word. I know it's not a dirty word on this one. I got a lot of 4-letter words we say in this show. That one's fine.
All of those used car models are new economy models. None of the new car models were new economy models. That's a result, I think, of the 1,000-pound gorilla manufacturers. They have a model and they want that model, and they're going to do everything they can. Unfortunate side of it is that the manufacturers have also pushed down stress on sales that has 10 salesmen waiting at the curb if anybody looks like they might drive in. So to the point, you made a point that in the adapting to the new economy business model, they're actually saying, "Wow, cost per acquisition's down, overhead's down. Look at this, half the sales, and I've got a larger profit." Go figure.
No, it's totally true. I mean, it like,
Yes,
I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, I just think a lot of people are actually going to have to ask themselves that questions, but then there are other people out there that are really still kind of struggling through this. And I think the fundamental bottom line answer to this is that for us as an industry, we're going to have to process our way to profitability. I mean, guys, look, before all this happened, we had, 2019, which was kind of a down year for us, right? We were flat, right? Some dealerships were a little down, some were a little up, some of them, majority of them were flat. Between 2018, the 5 years before then, we were running double-digit gains, quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. I mean, we got fat. John, I'm sure you know this on the training side. A lot of people got just satisfied. The term warm bodies was completely acceptable again, but I think moving forward is like we can't afford to do that. We have to have people that are going to be able to adapt to the customer in the way that they want to communicate, and make an experience like we never had before. Look, I will say this: as an industry, we've risen to the situation. Look, for years we all kind of shuffled our feet as far as kind of adapting our communication processes and so on and so forth. And in less than 2 months, the entire automotive industry did actually step up. So I will applaud them for that. But I mean, with that said, though, I still think dealerships are trying to find ways to continue to save money. And every single time I have a conversation with a dealership, that just seems to be that seems to be what it's all about, is how to save money. So this is the way I'd like to kind of take the conversation with both of you guys, is your thoughts on dealerships and where they can save money moving forward. Something they should not cut, something they should cut. John, I'll start with you, and then Chris, I'll ask you the same question.
I would never cut training, but that's the first thing they cut. I mean, that's the lifeblood of the business, is training. And I mean, I see it all the time. I mean, I've probably been in 40,000 dealerships all over North America, and it will come back. But what happens is people get just too complacent. They wait for the ups. They wait. I see it all the time, and that's what happens. But you got to get into the relationship game. If you're not in the relationship game, you will be dead. Like, you have to build a business within the business. It's nothing new. It's not complicated. It's about building relationships, taking care of your customer. So when they're thinking about a car, then they will think of you. Period. That's it.
Now, John, how do you think the training is going to change? You know, I mean, a lot of dealerships are, you know, a lot of customers' confidence is not overly high right now. So customers are choosing or demanding, in some cases, to do more of this virtually versus in person, which for the most part, all of our training for years, and I've been trained for years, has all been about having that person in front of you so that you can make that connection. How do you think that changes things moving forward?
Like, for the next few months, you might have to do these type of Zoom little meetings with your customer. You can go meet your customer, but if there's no relationship, you're done, because you're just waiting for someone that you don't know. And if it's someone that you don't know, it's the hardest customer to sell, because you're going to grind you on the price. What about this? What about that? I'm not sure. I'm checking around. So what they should have done over the last 4 years is built up a little base and talk to their people, connect with their people, call their people, like call their people once every couple of months. Look, I was just thinking about you. How you doing? How's everything? That's how Ali Reda does it. That's how Damien Boudreau does it. And then even with the Dwayne, like, we teach that part of it. And I stopped when maybe 4 years ago, our seminars were ahead of the curve, because our seminar in Canada that I do with Dwayne's called Never Depend on Lot Traffic Again. That's what it's called. I said, look, we're not teaching road to the sale. We're not teaching how to close car deals. We're going to teach how to build a business within the business, how to make yourself the product, right? So that's critical. That should never stop. And that's why I love going on the road. That's why I love going to the cities, because I am an advocate for the salesperson. And every salesperson has greatness in them. It's there for them. They have to work on their skill. They have to work on their game. And that's my job and your job, to sell the dealer to continue to do that. So.
No, I agree with you. Look, creating a relationship now is more important than it ever has in the past. The key thing, though, and I'm finding with a lot of dealerships, is that we have to create that relationship the way the customer wants to create that relationship, not the way that we necessarily want to do so. You know, if the customer wants to communicate and connect on Instagram, chat, they should be able to do that. If they want to,
that's transactional, right?
If they want a Facebook Messenger with somebody, they should be able to Facebook Messenger. I'm still blown away that it's 2020, guys, and on all of our automotive website solutions out there, from a form fill perspective, only ask for email and phone number. Like you guys communicated with me, like calling me or email, that ain't gonna happen. You LinkedIn message me, because that's where I pretty much spend 95% of my time. But before we go into the next topic, Chris, I want to go back to you, and from a cost savings perspective. All right, a lot of dealerships are looking and trying to figure out, what do they cut, what do they don't cut. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Well, I happen to agree, John, with you 100%. It is about relationships, and the customer satisfaction numbers of 2019 tanked. In fact, they had customers angry at customer experience and that type of thing. And why is that? Because they fell in line with instant gratification of live leads. People sitting in the short buying cycle, and it progressed to where many of them were all in that, and it's a very expensive method, but it's instant gratification. Now, I'm a proponent of relationships with your local community residents. Now, I have this funny story. Okay, there's a car buyer out there. Jim decides he wants to buy a car. Jim goes to Google and searches for the car he wants. Jim gets extracted and sold to a local dealership as a live lead. The people within the dealership call, email, and court Jim. Jim buys a new car. Jim lives next door to the dealership. Okay? Now, dealerships used to be built in the center of town. They were a architectural icon, a little progressive for each town. And they opened up to the local community. Now, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley with Galpin Ford.
Yeah.
When the new models would come in, there would be searchlights crossing over the sky. I mean, it was like Disneyland, okay? You'd stop by there and you'd talk to your salesman buddy. You'd have coffee. At 9 at night, you would stop by and talk to your salesman buddy, okay? Every family had a doctor, had an accountant, and had a car dealer. Now, every time there was a question about a car, even if it was where do I get a new gas cap? They called their buddy. When it was time to buy a car, it was already made. The decision was already made. Okay. That is what my 2020 Dealer of Choice program is all about. Now, if you go back to that time and you look at numbers spent on marketing and number of cars sold, it kicks our ass today in regard to customer acquisition costs. Okay. So I am a proponent of relationships in a big way. I'm a proponent of the car dealer being a friend of the family. And that's what my program is going to the channel delivery to the community is my magazine Auto Life as a content marketing magazine going into each of their mailboxes, speaking completely about the dealership and their manufacturer. Quit spending all that money every month to get live leads and then figure out what to do. I mean, you're just chasing a dream. You got to recreate the wheel every time you find a new customer. Ridiculous. So at any rate, now I have friends that are digital marketing folks. Jason, I've felt bad so many times. I've felt bad so many times because I see your point. I'm all, no way. And I get on, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I might have just said something wrong. So I have to go to Messenger and go, Jason, I'm sorry. But the reality is, there's so many things like my other business, LinkedIn Executive. Proliferation of the personal brand. I've been a brand developer for 4 decades. Guess what's missing from the personal brand? The brand. It's nothing more than a social media strategy. So everybody's all whacked out in this world as far as I'm concerned. You need to get back to good old-fashioned relationships.
Well, and think about what those relationships are built on, right? The reason we maintain and have relationships is because we're receiving value from that relationship. Mm-hmm. Now, look, when I first started in this industry, that's what it was. I was like, and I had to build value like really quick, because it was pretty much, here's 1 week of training, here's a phone book, now start making phone calls. So, literally creating value on someone I've never even had a conversation with, right? That's how it was for me. But I agree with you. I think we actually do have to get back, to the basics and create the relationships. And a relationship starts with a good story. That is the one thing I'm finding moving forward, guys, is that we're going to have to get back to being the storytellers that we've always kind of been into. Look, someone's going to want to consume a story before they actually want to consume your product or your services. And it just seems like we've as an industry, we relied so much on the story from the manufacturer that as a dealership, we just kind of avoided creating our own story, right? But guys, I'm with you on the relationship side, but I actually want to talk about another type of relationship with you guys too. And that's actually the relationship with our staff. So I don't know about you guys, but I've been having a lot of conversations with dealerships daily since this whole thing started. And, we were talking a little earlier how the cream rises to the top. Well, I'll tell you, that's not just as sales and service, that has also to do with ownership. And I have met some owners that have really shown their colors in a good way, and in some cases a bad way. And I'd like to kind of get your guys' thoughts on this, because I'm getting asked the question on a pretty regular basis is, from an owner's perspective, how do we keep our company's, culture kind of alive during this time frame? Look, consumer confidence is way down. Staff confidence is way down. We seem to focus on the consumer relationship and their confidence, but we seem to forget about our staff relationship and our staff confidence. John, I'd kind of like get your thoughts on this, and then Chris, I'm going to ask you the same question, is, how do we keep our company's culture alive during the pandemic? Your thoughts, John?
I think it starts with the owner being, or general manager, is that kind of the, like, yeah, to be more involved and engaged in the process and with the customers today, hands-on involvement, supporting their salespeople. And I mean, those are the managers that I deal with, I have dealt with. I mean, they love their people, they take care of their people. So I mean, But just to Chris's point, like just the point before that, Chris was saying about what a fascinating thing about the community, because when they asked Ollie Retta, they asked him in an interview, if you could start your business today, start it over today to be a car salesman, what one single strategy would you implement into your business? It could be Facebook or whatever it was. And Ollie Retta, he said one word, and that word was community. So that was really fantastic what Mr. Chris said there, community. That's what it's all about. So, anyways, that's I said I don't know much about how that part of the intricacies of the store work. Like I said, I deal with the salesperson and I get him to come to the seminar. However, the most important person is the dealer or the general manager that will give me the opportunity to present to the salespeople. So those guys that I know are forward thinking, they're enthusiastic, they're involved with their people, they care about their people, they love their people, they're involved in their business. So that's what you got to do more today.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I think being involved in the business is very true, guys. We were kind of talking about it, 2018 and back, I call it full belly syndrome, where we talked a lot about what we accomplished and talked very little about what we could have accomplished if we just sat down, take the time, create those relationships, and developed out that community. Chris, I'd kind of like to get your thoughts, man. You've run a lot of businesses. You've dealt with employees kind of all over the world. This is interesting times, and there's a lot of dealerships that are watching and listening right now, and that's something on their mind. Is like, how do they continue to maintain and keep up their staff confidence and that culture of their dealership? Your thoughts, Chris?
Well, in 1980, working for a global advertising agency, I had the Honda Automobiles account, and I did a two-tier campaign, internal campaign. One was called "Our Customers Are Friends," and one was called "Our Employees Are Friends." So, let me just say that it's no coincidence that the employees, including sales, happen to live in the local community. So if you can adopt a community program, if you can make changes to the nuances in your brand that puts the dedication and the focus back on your local community, that's going to have a two-tier effect, and that's employees and resident/car buying public. It's all about coming back home. Now, things that are going to change. I'm sorry, Mike, getting off topic a bit. But things that are going to change within the auto dealership are right now. Nobody wants to go into the auto dealership. So Zoom, internet, it's king. Oh, that's not going to last long. What's going to happen is people are going to have a much smaller geographic footprint. So the internet, which gave options of dealerships to folks. So we here in Thousand Oaks would go to Oxnard or the San Fernando Valley or Simi Valley. No, you're going to go to your local dealership again. You don't want to travel. Okay. Now, if the dealership can accommodate with customer touch points within the dealership to embrace the local community, that's the way it's going to change. Okay. There's going to be coffee clubs for the women to go to in the morning at the Volvo dealer. Okay. There's going to be, programs that embrace the local residents. And when the local resident comes in for that program, they're going to stop by whatever department and say hello to their neighbor because they're all part of the same community. So 2020 Dealer of Choice, the community alignment program, it also has an added value element of the employees being community residents.
Because the employees are literally our best. Oops, that's a weird audio there. The employees are our best marketing tool, and I don't know how and when. Well, they've always have been, but it's just I know you're funny, John. You funny guy. But no, I mean, come on, John. I mean, you remember? I mean, when I first started got in this business, it was the employees that were pretty much the ones that were marketing. We actually had a prospect. We had this crazy thing called prospecting.
They still do it today.
Well, who the hell does it today? Well, that's what I'm saying.
There you go.
That's relationship building.
That's what
they called it prospecting because the manufacturer told them to.
Well, to your point, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many dealerships have kind of gone away from that because I think it's full belly syndrome. it's just like we're just so satisfied with what they have. They don't ever talk about what they could possibly could they had if they just done this, and this, And I think a lot of that has to do with just the situation. They're satisfied. So it is. But I think moving forward, though, I think we've had a rude awakening. We've had to learn. We've had to learn a lot from this situation. In fact, actually, that's a perfect question, and where we're going to go into my next question for both of you guys is, what do you think is the single most important thing that you have learned from this situation? And then we'll talk a little bit about what I think dealerships have learned as well. John, I'll start with you. What is the most important thing you've learned from this pandemic?
I've learned nothing. I mean, what am I supposed no, because I always say that because look, I'm a seminar promoter. Okay, like I live and die by the seminar. So I mean, a virus, I can't control a virus. I can't control them shutting me down. So I mean, did I learn to be more diversified? I don't really want to be diversified. I love doing what I'm doing. I'm 60 years old. I'm going to live and die by the seminar. I do promote some training, like we have a training program with Dwayne and stuff like that. But nothing, man. I'm just waiting to get back, dude. That's it.
Well, all right, fine. I will say you learned how to do a Zoom call because I watched your. Was your daughter or your granddaughter that helped you set that up today?
My daughter, she set it up. That was good. You know what? This is.
See, this is pretty good. See, this relationship we're making here, John. It's great, right?
Yeah, but the best thing is to say, okay, so you know what? When can we meet for a coffee at the Starbucks since we're 20 minutes apart? That's how you develop, and that's what most people miss. Right?
No, I'm with you. In fact, actually, you know what? I've been doing a lot of coffee Zoom sessions, with people right now that, I'm meeting for the first time. And I will say this, John, and this is the one thing I've learned, is that, being virtual connections, all right, I'm actually finding the customers are more hyper attentive to what I'm saying than when I was in the dealership. Because when I was in the dealership, it was like this was going off, the cell phone was going off, the text message was coming in. It's like now, like they get onto a Zoom call or video call like we're having now, and it's like, no, they're watching exactly what I'm saying. They're watching my eyes. They're looking at my mouth. It's like I'm actually trying to make a mental note to actually smile more often because it's something I know. It's like now you're on camera, you better smile.
And Chris is bang on with that community. That is 100% bang on fact for today. I mean, it's always been there, but it's a fact only because I know in Baton Rouge, there's a Chevrolet dealer that all his money spent in the community. And for NADA for last year, the number one dealer was a Chevrolet dealer in Jacksonville, Florida. Every single dollar he spent was in his community. So really, it is like just the most phenomenal. So very nicely done, Mr. Chris.
Hey, Chris, for yourself, you've been through the recession. You've been through a few blurps in the economy. All right. What is the single most important thing that you've learned during the pandemic?
Let me just start with the first thing I miss: shaking somebody's hand.
Oh man, I'm with you on that.
I'm a handshaker guy. I mean, So, what did I learn? How to put on a face mask and don't trust the government to protect you.
That's exactly it, huh? Just don't trust the government. I'm glad now to put a face mask on.
They got us into this.
Hey, no. Look, I'm with you. I think preparation for anything and everything. I will say though, I am pretty good about being prepared. It's the Boy Scout in me. Like it really is. Like I'm pretty much prepared for pretty much any contingency. I gotta be honest, from a business perspective, I was not prepared losing 80% of my revenue in 2 weeks. Like let's just put that out there.
Right,
that was, well, yeah, it's okay, right. It's definitely been some interesting times, and because of those times, we don't only just have to support ourselves as business owners, but we also have to support our employees. And, John, I kind of got to get your thoughts on this, and Chris, I'll get your thoughts on too, is, as owners, how do we support the people around us? John, your thoughts?
You support them with coaching, with motivation, with encouragement, with love, and being there for them. That's basically it. Help them.
Hey, Chris, for yourself, What are your thoughts?
Well, I happen to have the wonderful benefit of being really, really old. So also, there's been some pretty substantial circumstances in my life. So I have traumatic brain injury. I live every day to help people. I love helping. I reach out to other traumatic brain injury patients, car business, people that have lost their jobs on my other business. And then there's the regular. I have to tell you a quick story. This is bizarre, but this pandemic kind of brought everything to me and leveled out the playing field. For 9 years, I've been recovering from a catastrophic accident where I actually died and was in a coma. And in a crosswalk as a pedestrian, I was hit by a bus at 52 years old. It took me out. Okay, came back to life without much memory of my life. Had to start over, learn to walk, everything. I don't leave home. I have traumatic brain injury. I freak out. I have a 60-mile footprint that happens to be Mulholland Drive that I take my cars, my hot rods, and my motorcycles on every afternoon. Okay, so I do all my business from my pool house. All of a sudden, it's in vogue. So, right. So I have in the 9 years that I've been alive, so to speak, I haven't been on an airplane, to a mall, to a movie theater. My brain won't let me. So, welcome to my world.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way. And actually, that's a good segue kind of into my next question, because I think there are a lot of businesses out there that are, that have had employees continue to work from home, right? And they're seeing efficiencies, increase in productivity. From an automotive perspective, I have some salespeople that are, have been recently offered jobs to work for dealerships where they stay from home. They prospect from home, all right, and they come in when they have to meet with a client. And I'm like, that's pretty different and unique. Do you guys kind of see moving forward? And Chris, I'd love to get your thoughts on this because you've been living it for such a long time. But John, I'll start with you first. Is moving forward, do you see our industry, shifting to more of a remote employee?
In the short term, yes. I think it'll be something that it'll be incorporated. It'll be optional, I think. I mean, well, I know like the number one GM salesman in Canada, in Guelph, in February, like when it was just happening, he was on pace for a 44 car month, and it was Zoom meetings. So he adapted really, really well. So he'll do both. So it'll be a combination of both. I still think the stores are going to come back. I think people want to go back into the dealership. I think consumer wants to go back into the dealership, or they can do the Zoom meeting. You can go to their home. I mean, the home delivery's been around since 1975. Like, it's not new. So you just gotta get in the game of sales, right?
That's right.
It can't not be just like a job, a job. Those are the people that are going to get slaughtered, right? Just job, right?
Um, we're going to have a correction. Um, we screwed ourselves. Sorry to say, but the dealership is an incredible icon of the community. I love going to dealerships. I love walking through there and hanging out.
Yep.
Okay, it's cool. It's a great place, and the owner spent a ton of money making it a great place. Okay, That's not going to go away. Now, how did we screw ourselves? By embracing the digital environment way too much. We were trying to figure, before the pandemic, we were trying to figure out how to get people coming through the doors. Come on, this is a great place to hang out. Okay, my magazine, Autolife, the actual name of it is Automobile Lifestyles. It's about people and their relation to the automobile. Are you kidding? If you've got a Ferrari, every member of your family has a complete wardrobe of Ferrari gear. Okay, everything, whatever brand it is, that's called Automobile Lifestyles. That's a result of a dealership. Plain and simple. Okay, every Porsche club is driven out of the Porsche dealership. It is an icon to the community, as I said in the beginning. Let's get back to that. Yes, we need to do business online. We need social media. Social media is wonderful. You don't have to pay for it. Hell, go talk to 1 million people. It's beautiful. Okay, go pay some guy that has no education, but he's an influencer. Okay. Sorry, I was a little dig.
Thanks,
anyway,
Chris. Appreciate that.
Not you. Come on. See, I always have to come back and message you and say, I'm sorry.
That's with you.
All right. Anyway, it's got to get back to that. Yes, a car salesman should do some of the work from home. Are you kidding? This is his work right here. His next door neighbor. He's going to buy a car every 3 years. So got to get back to that. Of course, do business digitally. Got to have that. You've got to build a well-rounded media plan. Right, Jason? Okay.
Very much so agreed.
I think I might have touched on your subject.
No, you did. And no, I'm with you, right? I mean, you guys are really driving home the point that it's about the relationship, it's about creating the community. It's time to be the professional again. This is John, what were you saying earlier? This is not just a job. This is a career. This is a commitment. And I think for a lot of people, and I'm not just talking about salespeople, I'm also talking about sales managers, I'm talking about general managers, I'm talking about service employees, and even some kind of owners. I think we have to recommit back to the business, and this is an amazing time to do that and recommit to those efforts. Hey guys, I know that's getting towards the tail end of our time today, but before you guys go, I get to ask one question. It's my favorite question of the day. John, I'm going to start with you because you just look like a guy that's generally pissed off all the time. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, but John, here's my question. What is pissing you off?
Well, not being able to go back to work. That's it. What am I going to tell you? Loving the time at home. It's just phenomenal. Walking every day, playing Frisbee with the grandkids. It's just a wonderful time. So, but what's pissing me off is just being kind of trapped. So, but September, hey, come hell or high water, man, I'm going to be on that street.
I'm with you on that, man. Hey, Chris, for yourself, what is pissing you off?
Well, I've been married 37 years, and I'm with my wife 24 hours a day now. You can answer that question.
That's a great way to do that. Are you sure you want me to send this clip over? I'm with you on that. I have 3 kids. They're all under the age of 10, and I love my kids. Don't get me wrong, I really do. But wow, sitting down trying to do homework with them, it's enough to drive anybody crazy. Hey guys, for everybody out there that's watching and listening right now and love to connect with you fine gentlemen, what is the best way to do so? John, I'll start with you, and then Chris, I'll ask you the same question.
The best way with me is through LinkedIn. That's it. That's the number one way.
Chris, for yourself, what's the best way to connect with you, sir?
Same. I use LinkedIn as a nucleus. Everything stems out from there. Find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome, guys. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a ton of fun. You guys have yourself an amazing day.
Thanks. Hey, nice seeing you, John.
Thank you. Yes, likewise. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.